Wait, oh, it's connected to server now. Yeah, just check the channel, is it on?
So I'm just going to cancel the time going,
For anybody looking at this on the internet, we're now checking to see that it's actually going on to the are there any declarations of interest? No.
I think we're on.
Item 4, minutes of last meeting attached. Are we happy to accept them as a correct record? Yes, very much. Item 6.
5.
Skipping over item 5. Environmental schemes, town centre planting. There's one issue that we need to deal with this evening, and that is to do with the winter planting and give agreement to get the winter planting in place on Bill and Ben and do the bits and bats that we do. So are we content? Alan, yes, I'm happy. Move that, second that. Thank you very much. In terms of environmental schemes, one which the Town Council has an interest is the work in the area around Old Gormers, where at the last council meeting we discussed a possible jumbo project which would get the clock repaired and back in situ as part of a bigger package of works. And the total scheme, including the £5,000 for the clock repairs, is about 15,500. Pendle Council's West Ribbon Area Committee at last night's meeting agreed for 10,500 into that. Pendle Council, because of the repairs and maintenance aspects, will put 2,000 in from R&M, and at the last council meeting we said we'd put £3,000 in. So that scheme is now covered, and we can get the clock back in place. Whether we can get it back in place for when the clocks change, which I thought would be nicely appropriate, is debatable, but perhaps by next spring's.
That's when the people who are chairlifting it back on can do it.
Right. So we're looking at February or March 2023. John?
Just thinking, seeing as how the clocks always wrong because it wouldn't reset the new times, maybe we'll wait till after so maybe before we put them in, and maybe wait for 6 months or what.
Yeah, I think the £4,000 is going to remedy that problem. Well, £5,000.
Or could we just write G&T on the face and leave it where it is?
Or, as we have a label on one of the clocks in our house, there's a little label that says plus 1 hour. So if we get to the end of this month, that will be correct. Yeah, are there any further environmental schemes? I think we're just noting the issue of the clock and the associated work. No. So moving on to events programme, and we've got various events coming up, and then some putative events in the future for this financial year. So the first was the 100th anniversary of the unveiling of the War Memorial when it was put into Letcliffe Park, and he has a copy of the order of service, and he wondered whether any elements of that could be incorporated in the service and the events that we have this year. So that's a question, really.
I thought that was an issue I'll look into.
Well, I mean, if Ken...
Were we talking about it last year, saying it was this year? I think.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I think it was 1922, but yeah. I mean, it's worth
Still
just
working on the other service.
checking it out and doing that. Tom flagged up the question of streaming.
Didn't really work out. Yeah,
No,
technical
that's
problem.
yeah, that's
Trying
fine.
to sort out. Yeah.
Why didn't it work out?
Well, couldn't figure out why at the time. I'm sure we can fix it for this one.
Okay, so are you saying that streaming is a possibility and we can possibly do a 2-camera job it?
Who would we have to operate these 2 cameras?
Well, we can try and get one just to fix the position.
Last year there was a volunteer from your university course.
Yeah.
Nathan
Can you
did.
get
Nathan did some as well.
Nathan was on the town square and we had
We got the audio from the town square, but it was the imagery from the cenotaph. Because I think people was just looking at the cenotaph, but you had the audio from the town square.
right. Because you were on the you were on the PC in here and you were getting the feed from both
Yeah.
and then spitting it out, were you? Anyway, I'm not worried about the details, it's just a case of
Do you want to do it?
can we do it together?
Will you be here?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Carl, is there anything else Remembrance Day wise?
Not really. I'm working on the order of service at the minute. When you meet in a few weeks, once when you got back from holiday. So we'll have that. No, there's not a great deal else. It was just a live streaming that I asked Tom about, but are you thinking we can do it then?
Yeah.
We'll just sort out some volunteers for it then. We need to make sure we have enough volunteers for the rural closure. I don't think we had enough last year. We were coming along Newtown and it wasn't closed at the bottom until the very last minute. Did you end up closing that at the very last minute?
Yeah, that was me, because there was a guy who definitely did not want to stop. Remember that guy with 4
Yeah.
Are we legally allowed to employ wheel spikes?
Stingers?
That hammer.
No, we're not.
I think with Stanley knife.
I'm just trying to think of who we could tap into in terms of.
Well, we closed all the town squares closed, we fenced that off. So we need to close Newtown as we come off. And then as we come off Newtown onto Church Street, and then turning on to Station Road.
It's closing, that needs closing, this needs closing.
So yeah, there's quite a lot of places. So there's
An appeal out to see anybody that's willing to assist with that. But I mean, ideally, you want a couple of people. Well, certainly on the busy ones. I mean, you might get away with one person, you know, Newtown 3 years since. So
So
yeah.
the closures all have to be manned?
Yeah.
So-
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Otherwise just drive around them.
yeah.
the closure is implemented by the sign.
Yes.
It's a sign that is the legal requirement. But if you just put, well, you need somebody to put the sign there. But as Joe says, if you just put a sign there, somebody comes along, there's nothing to stop you driving around it. People drive around it. So it's putting the sign out, standing by the sign with high vis on, to ensure that people do hang about.
Yeah.
And we set John on them if.
The guy went up the pavement.
You can bring the child in, can't you?
He was there at the side of the road,
Yeah.
on the pavement, around it.
Yeah.
Tour around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? No. Moving on. Our next event then is the switch on Saturday, and just starting at the end and working backwards. We've got a very kind offer from the Rotary to marshal the parade, and I've got to talk to this year's president about what numbers of people they can turn out. But I think we'll be delighted to accept a very kind offer. And I'll meet
I don't
with.
mind doing it.
Well, yeah, but if they take the brunt of it, and because I think I worked it out. We needed like 26 people or 24 people, and we generally, sort of collaring people last minute, saying, "Well, can you do it?" And we get enough people. But if the Rotary take that on as a task, that would be absolutely fantastic. Other aspects, Rebecca and Joe have been beavering away, getting everything into place.
Temporary vendor notice has been granted, so we can set up like a bit of a food court thing in Lyme car park. And then the stores have got 3. I think we've got 3 left. She's written to the reserve list, and she's written to the 3 on the reserve list today, so we can pick them in. So that the market's completely full. There's entertainment on the town square that's all been booked. We've got like an advent trail going on. We've got loads of shops and businesses involved in that. All the willow's been ordered. And what's
All the lights months ago.
The lights for the lanterns.
So they've set some, she's done, in half term she's going to do 3 lots of workshops, Rebecca, and done it on like Eventbrite or Ticket Source or something. Someone initially booked every single ticket under a fictitious name, so locally we spotted it. Veronica's Nathan messaged me and said, "Is that really sold out in one day?" So I went on and looked, and it was the same person. It was a character at Friends. So we cancelled all that. And then restricted the number an individual could book to 4, and then we booked by lots of people and know the names, so it's not fictitious. So that's going all right.
We've been talking about getting people to take responsibility for particular aspects. So on the town square, we've got the entertainment. That needs organising, and to some extent we're looking for somebody with a bit of stage management experience. The bonus is if they take that job on, they don't have to be an elf.
That's the
But,
Bloody facts out.
so, do we have a volunteer? So this is Saturday the 19th of November.
He's only looking at you, Emma.
I know.
I know, but it was a stage management experience, you see, that I thought.
There is a DJ who's acting as compere, and the list
Person, is it?
is a man who.
That one that did
No,
No,
it's not covered.
No.
So there is somebody there who's doing that, but there's like Imogen's dancers, there's just imagine it coming with like a bit of choir thing going on, the belly dance people. There's other people just to make sure everyone gets where they need to be.
What time?
Noon.
No.
Till switch on.
Yes.
Yes, you're willing volunteer, there we go.
It's alright, Colin, because you're being an elf.
I will be a fat
So I asked the Rotary if they would take on. No, yes, but I need to have a further discussion with Rotary to see whether I could expand their participation in the event. But and that's in the veins at the moment. So, do we have anybody else who's willing to take on a supervisory
And in the civic hall.
role? You're in the civic hall. So, Joel sort out down here.
And the chief health.
No, we're looking looking more like it's not a starring role as being your dress up. It's more like you're in the background and you're sort of making sure that things happen.
Let's say why that, right? Because I want each person who's doing one of these areas to come to me and say, I need
X.
I'm expected to do and what hours are working, so that no one is being left at midnight with a job still to do because they don't have enough people. Yeah?
So in terms of market,
Yeah. Chubby, Duncan. I'll sort that out.
okay, right.
But whoever's coming in to do that, that's the job. But on the Friday, we are going to have so much to do to get ready in time for Saturday morning because the market's double the size it was last time. So it means we've got loads more lights to put in and the electrics and everything else. We've got grottos to build. Technically, we don't know at the minute, but we can't get in until 5 o'clock at night, so that causes a bit of an issue. This place will be a lot easier because we don't have the booking in on the Saturday morning, so on Friday morning we can set that room up and it could just be left and then it's good to go for Saturday. And then we can then move into somewhere else. So it's just making sure that no one gets left 5 days later still putting grottos away.
Yeah. I mean, it's the single biggest attended event that we have, you know, where we have all the people at one time. You know, we might have more people over bands on the square over 7 days. So you know, in a sense, it's you know, the biggest event that we do, and there is a lot of stuff involved with it.
Even on that week though, I sit in my office and put batteries in Christmas lights and make lantern packs, but your presents will be in your stock and I can make a cup of tea.
We could get people to put them on batteries.
Yeah.
We did that last year, didn't we?
We were giving them the tape strap around it, weren't we? That's how we were doing it.
Yeah.
Even if
So-
they're not in it, they need to be as a pack, don't they? Because that's why that's how we manage to get rid of the problem of running out.
I think in terms of seeing whether we've got people to cover different aspects, that you send out an email to all town councillors. I mean, it may be, you know, I'm not assuming, but Marjorie might be content to sit up at the rail centre. I know. But she would appreciate a task that was within her capabilities.
Yeah.
So if we put a general request out, see who's able to help. Very grateful to Emma for volunteering this evening. And that's absolutely brilliant. Before we get to the switch on, we have the little matter of putting the Christmas trees up. So we need to get some teams together for that. I mean, Mick helped with that last year. He got somebody else to come and help with that. So again, we're looking at you know, probably getting some of our casuals involved with that as well, and you know, sort of volunteers. Yeah.
But I can do the before and during, but I'll have to come out for the cleaning up afterwards because I'll be committed on other stuff
Right.
here in the 20th onwards. So
Okay.
I imagine I'll be coerced as usual for the event. So
You're alright. Should I try and get a mail on the shed?
yes, please. And it had all this sort of gold foil going in swirls and a cane.
The Santa last year was selling this too, wasn't it?
I don't know who it was.
The older chap retired.
I think it's brought some.
All right.
I thought it brought it here. Right. Okay. Well, we did sort that out.
Could I don't know whether it's too early for a little bit of, well, sort of minutiae. Does anybody else agree that Santa doesn't belong in the actual parade?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's It's a distraction from the parade, where everybody in it is are the stars, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No cars either. I think.
No cars. No.
We've got this year I don't know, I can't remember the name of them, but the band that your dad put in the group chat, the Tom ones, it.
No, they're not Todd, are they?
Where were you watching them?
Oh, they might have appeared in Todd. They're from Preston.
Oh right, okay. So we've got those Suko Samba that we've had before, and another one I can't remember the name of it. So there are three. So we've got the look, then the overall go. So luckily we've got them spaced out. We've got more impact from proper music rather than a stereo. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're looking to have an alternate van driver at the back rather than me being Tail and Charlie. And I'm saying I'll pace the parade so that we don't, lose Tail and Charlie at the back. So I'm comfortable because I wasn't happy last year that the front of the parade went so fast. We ended up with massive gaps, and then people here were trying to keep the traffic back, but there was an enormous gap. So the drivers are looking and saying, "Well, why can't I go?" And then we ended up with the back end of the parade, the very slowest people. And we were sort of then, we got them to go into the square, but then we were chasing to catch up, and we never actually got to the back of the parade proper because, it just disappeared in the distance.
Because we kept stopping to pull up fences as well, fence panels. And
yeah, but we should have been immediately behind the... Anyway, but, yeah. So if I pace the front of the parade at the usual funereal march...
You want a stick?
No, I've got a stick. I've got a brandish. That's over a town. Anyway, I'm comfortable with it. So I would take responsibility for the parade and work with the Rotary to get everything in place for that. Okay, so we're asking town councillors if anybody's available, what they can do. I went on to the erection of Christmas trees, where I think, combination of casuals and volunteers, which I think that begins at the beginning of November, doesn't it?
8th is the Monday.
Is it? Right.
That testing's needed on the 6th.
Okay. We've got some work to be done before then to sort out the lights, which we never got away properly last year. But yeah, okay.
I know I needed to ask you, to be honest. Timers. I messaged the company and they went, "Oh, I've just spoken to David about this," and I went, "Oh, it's a bit of a left hand, right hand."
Yeah, well, I had to speak to
Paul
Buckley about the putative development on the town square with another performance space, which we discussed at the last council meeting. And whilst I was on with him, I went over the timers. He reckons they could do it if there's an empty way within the consumer unit, for want of a better word. He reckons each timer is in the order of about 85 quid. And don't shoot the messenger. He reckons the sort of, just off the top of his head, cheapest price is 150 quid. But...
Each?
Yes. And if there's only a single way which is occupied, so that they've got to sort of like rebuild the consumer unit, as it were, you know, you're probably looking at 250 quid.
Electric bill £600 figure.
I know. So I think, and he agreed with the point that I think it was Mike made about the time units themselves consuming electric. So in the course of a year, if the timers were on all the time, it might be sort of equivalent electric consumption to having the LEDs on. So at the end of that conversation, I thought, well, we're wasting his time with that one. But yeah, I did suggest there was an alternative. Eugene was round fixing them all.
What, like 2 o'clock in the morning?
No, it's a reasonable time of the night. I was only joking.
The dress as Elvis at that time.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss, or any decision that we may need to take
Done.
in terms of switch on? No? Anything from anybody else? Right. So moving on, at the last full council meeting, it was agreed to look at doing a 2-day Christmas market event on the 10th and 11th of December. This afternoon, several of us met with, I can't remember what they're called, RHS Artisan Markets or whatever it is, and agreed a plan for the Sunday, which is what they would undertake, and we looked at the feasibility of doing it over a 2-day period, so it's a big event, well, a big market, and I think we've got sort of provisional planning in place, subject to getting enough take-up from stallholders. And this afternoon Rebecca's emailed both days, and on the Sunday it will be supplemented by 20 plus stalls from Artisan Market. So we've got the potential for a decent, visitor attracting Christmas market. I think the Artisan Market people, they're all costumed, aren't they? So we will try and have sort of costumed stallholders and conviviality.
So I'm going with the milk train now.
So the actions that we've agreed is informing the shops of the event, seeing who would want to open, asking any of the shops if, rather than, if they're a bit out of it, if they want to stall, they could come and have a stall, and so on and so forth. I don't know whether there's any decision to be taken. The one thing I mentioned to Joe is if we have a lot more stalls than we've had previously, and this actually applies to the switch on as well, we might need to get some more little LED floodlights to light the stuff, which in themselves aren't very expensive, but then the connectors that we use
Flat top?
come in for a bit.
Yeah, especially including labour costs.
Well, yeah, so
Have we got any cable left over?
we've got some cable.
Every other cable's quite
Yeah.
expensive.
There is some cable left.
Can you imagine the price of the ends have gone up as well?
Price of wool has gone up as well.
Yeah, so the sort of, we use like a T connectors, so that it's like a spur to the light and the power carries on.
How many can you put on a row? 10?
Oh, you can.
Oh, we've got
The-
60
You're
on.
not limited by the amperage of the lights because they're so minimal. What you are limited by is the gauge of the cable can only go for so many lengths before you have too much resistance to the
Resistance.
wire. So you're limited with your length of your cable, not necessarily how many lights.
Because these ones, if you do some
I
new
think-
ones, don't have to have all them plug sockets on there.
No.
I'm just thinking I've got like a rubber bait.
We've got enough plug sockets, haven't we? Really. So, I think you can go for 30 metres on that 16 amp car.
So 8, 3, 24. Right, yeah, right. Right. I'm just thinking where it's going.
Okay, so I think we should give authority to Joe to purchase additional lights if necessary, and accept that that's a, you know, an investment, because in themselves they won't pay for themselves from one event. I mean, if we do 3 days,
Yeah.
there might be enough income to warrant it, but I mean we'll be there in the future and we'll, you know, get the
But
decent.
do we know an element of everything we've got, couldn't we, at some point?
Well, I probably knew last year when we did them, but forgotten since. Anything else on the Christmas market? Yes, I think we need to give general authority to Joe for any necessary expenditure. We're going to need roadside boards. It's going to be about 500 quid to do them.
Marketing.
The flyers, entertainment, things like that. So if we just, you know, delegate authority to Joe. Yeah?
Yeah.
Happy to do that. Now then, at the council meeting, I found out the opportunity to bid for something called UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and there was a paper which outlined sort of different opportunities. Unfortunately, the perhaps some more interesting opportunities were closed down because in the application form it precluded capital expenditure. So if you remember, if you were there was the possibility of creating a small bandstand at the back of the town square instead of having a pop-up and all that sort of stuff. And then the other two capital schemes were an extension of the art trail up at Leckliffe Park, and a further one was the installation of a bandstand at Leckliffe Park. Unfortunately, the application form ruled those out, so it wasn't possible to put proposals in for that. The deadline was Monday, and the only proposal that we were able to do was for looking at 3 years worth of 2 events in January and March, one being based on the Ice Trail, Festival of Ice and Fire, and the other one being based on the Barnoldswick in Wonderland, which we did last year, both of which were pretty well received, I think. So it's all provisional at the moment because we don't know when we're going to get any funding approval, if they are approved, and clearly might not be approved. But if we're going to do an event in January, we need to get a road closure in place, and similarly in March, and so we need to agree a date for January so that we can actually put an application in on the basis of it might not happen.
What's the last Saturday in January?
What is the last Saturday in January?
Sorry.
Who can tell us?
When's Easter?
Last Saturday in January is the 28th,
28th. So I think that's the first one.
and Easter Sunday is the 9th.
Alright, so March.
No, not really.
Last Saturday in March then.
It's the 25th.
Alright.
25th of March.
Happy with that?
Yeah. So if we get the funding, it happens. If we don't get the funding, it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else have we got? There's nothing this financial year. Because we were up to the 31st of March 2023.
Coronation.
That's in there.
Flag raising on Sunday for Trafalgar Day.
You got whatever you need.
So we've got a Horatio Nelson flag.
What is it?
What is it?
Trafalgar Day.
Yes, no,
Flag
what's
is
the
it?
flag?
Navy.
Navy. So it's a naval ensign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's blue. No?
Not white.
White. With a
Yeah.
Union Jack.
Yeah.
Right.
With the cross with St George's.
Okay.
Second guess myself now. I've had it set in my head all week which one I'm picking.
Okay. Hotels on events for this financial year.
No, it's not this financial.
Well, it was going
And would need the agreement that it's going ahead next year, because I'll put applications out next month.
okay. When's our next camp?
9th of whatever month.
November.
Yeah, that's it. That one.
So 9th of November, a month's time on the agenda for that.
Why can't it go on this if it's on events programme?
Well, because we put events programme 2022-23.
That's 2 different years.
Okay, if you look at it that way, I thought
I think it's implied financial.
yeah, financial years. I thought you. That's why.
Do you? I just think that's 2 different years.
No.
I think that counts.
I think that counts.
Okay.
I propose to put it to full council on this one.
You don't? Do you want to?
No, thank you.
Alright.
Yeah, I mean it is beyond the next elections. So
But if you don't plan it by then,
I
I might
know.
fair the people who aren't
We
here
can't.
tonight will agree to it.
yeah, we can't leave it until sort of the elections in May, because there'll be the elections and then it'll be the event. So
Right, agree to go ahead.
yeah.
You are Michael?
Okay.
No, right, hang on now.
Hold on.
So agreed to go ahead last bank holiday in May.
Spring bank holiday. We're not going to conflict with King's coronation.
From that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
We're not do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Pat down Monday.
Good sound.
Can we leave?
That's what comes with blues.
Yeah, we can leave the details. I'll have 2 in the band for whatever. Holiday.
Can we not put someone in pubs?
I don't want to get involved.
Okay, Tom, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, meeting today brought up the issue of us sort of only looking on a year ahead basis. But like for a lot of things like, big markets, people are expecting a longer series, like a longer calendar. So I think we should put it to full council to just plan a bit further ahead.
Can you do that though if you're all up for election in May?
I think
Well,
we can,
we can, but we can't bind the hands of the future council. The future
But,
council
I mean,
will do what a future council
You
does.
can always cancel something up to the day, can't you, I suppose, technically. But yeah, I just think for planning reasons and for like booking stuff, we should be looking further ahead. Especially
31st of March 2023.
Would you be stuck with January?
Does it have to be the same?
Well, if
Or
it,
at the same time, every year for 3 years?
well, part of the rationale for the reason for having the events was to have something in the winter months.
But
Which-
I'm thinking December.
Well, I think we're going to struggle.
I don't mean for this year, I mean for the year after.
Yeah. I mean,
It's in winter, you're not going into January and March.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the application's written January and March. I don't know, you know, they accept variation, but whether we could move to December, I don't know.
I was just thinking from a market point of view, in December it will be an additional draw, wouldn't it? Because it would be different. So we were asking today which towns we're competing with on 10th of December this year, and it was Skipton, Ilkley, Grassington. If we had something that was a bit like, wow, like your sculptures and things, you might get them people coming here.
Yeah.
Because it's a bigger thing.
Agreed, yeah. I mean,
Just small thought.
Yeah, practical issue might be the availability of the ice sculpture people, because they, you know, they tend to do a lot in December.
Right, okay.
But yeah, worth looking at that. Okay, so anyway, the point I was making was if we get them, then you know that's that's 2 events in the calendar, and what Tom was saying was, you know, you need to do forward planning in order to maximise. So, you know, we could slot other things into the calendar. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything further on events? No. John?
I don't think so, sorry.
Okay.
I was concentrating on what I was saying.
Item 7 then is other projects, and my mind's a complete blank.
I know what I want for this one.
Go on.
So, when I went up to Leckcliffe Park the other day to look at the moss stars, the thing that has the stones in it, I think needs topping up.
Yeah.
People been picking out Scottish cobbles.
I think that what's happened is that people have picked them up from I went to Alison, we were looking at the same thing. I think what people have done is they've picked the stones or the cobbles, these are Scottish cobbles, from an old beach, not a new beach, not a current beach. They've picked up the cobbles and they've thrown them into the middle, because whereas we had them flat before, they sort of go up like that. So I don't think they've necessarily been taken to any great degree. They just, you know, like people have tossed them and made a cone shape.
It does look good.
Yeah.
I just feel like it could do a little bit more.
Well, I mean, we've got the details of the people who've supplied them before. We've got, I don't know how many. There was a lot, wasn't there? Tom?
I mean, I'd agree it needs topping up. I mean,
Keep on top.
I think it just needs, obviously, you put enough in for it to be level across, but obviously people are sort of running in the middle, and we still wanted them to have some near the edges, so let's just top it up to make it a bigger cone shape. I don't know how many you want to take. You could work it out, I'm sure.
I was complimented on me estimating when we got the first lot, so I'll go and run my eye over it, unless you want to apply mathematical formulae to ensure that we get it exact.
Could do.
Yeah. So, you know, we need the volume of a irregular shape. So, anyway, yeah. Right. Who tells? John?
I'd like to suggest something.
Go on.
Heath Bank.
Oh, yeah.
Probably people have already thought about this, but presumably we've got some churches who are doing something for people who want to stay warm and not necessarily in the house. And if we could coordinate like a kind of daily kind of thing, so one day at Baptist Church, one day at Trinity, one day here, possibly if there's some empty space, it's warm, and people can choose to go on a particular day and keep warm inside here with possible company instead of staying at home and freezing.
Yeah.
I did think this room, I know it's a bit clinical, but we could put
It gets warm fairly cheaply.
well, the building's been kept warm anyway because we work in it.
There we go.
Craven District Council are doing, they've got like a register, so I don't know if we can do something similar. but I don't know where's doing it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We just got to get in touch, possibly reach out to the people who've got spaces that open up to the public for whatever reasons. That's what I mentioned, like the Baptist Church, for example. And they're about to stay open for a morning or afternoon, something like that. Just somewhere that people just know where they can go on a certain day if they want to stay warm somewhere.
Are the council happy for us to use this building for any of the days?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm not sure technically whether this committee's got the authority, but we could recommend it to the full council in the beginning of November.
I was thinking about people who work from home. Because if you're working from home and you've got to keep your heating on for 9 hours while you're sat work a laptop.
Well, for whatever use, really. It could just be that, people want to just have a chat with people and sit around and bring a coffee or whatever, and that's great. But if there's people want to work as well. I see it as being the room's here and it's warm, but we're not using it. Why not have somebody make use of that warmth?
For that.
Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of possibly coordinating or at least, advertising it, marketing it out to...
How would you market it to the people who possibly aren't on social media?
Well, you'd hope that the people who aren't on social media who could use it will be related to somebody who is possibly a bit younger and on social media, and then say, hey, mum, dad, granddad David, come and sit here and...
Notice at the food bank?
Yeah, notices, that kind of thing. Obviously each place as well, each place as part of it will have people coming in a notice board that they can put it
Tom?
If we are going to use a room in here like this, maybe just do with some furnishings.
What's wrong with it?
I'm just thinking it's not very cosy looking. It's a picture of the king. You could do the big picture of the king, full wall size there, and then some sofas and coffee tables.
I think that'll look quite apt behind you, David, at the meetings. It's Manchester.
What, Elvis?
King sausage.
I think you would have to be fairly desperate for a couple of hours warmth just to come into an empty room and stand around. Even if you put a brew on or something like that.
I think, to do it right, you have activities.
Yeah.
So, whether they be, sort of... No, I mean, you could have...
delegation powers.
There's
About board games.
Yeah.
Good at that.
Something
Yeah.
you could do that they don't feel too embarrassed coming because they're coming to do it.
Yeah.
Board game.
Who are also offering it, they've got their own activities, whatever days they will be open. There's nothing that says they couldn't bring it in here and then they can turn the heat on in theirs
And a coffin with.
and have it, they could bring their stuff. It's a communal kind of event rather than just like each individual one, you putting that on there and you're doing that.
Yeah.
They could just say this room is available for all these groups to use on a day when they're not using it at their own site. And they can come in here and use it.
Yeah.
And bring whoever they want, that's the thing.
Just extending this a little bit further, I think we're all aware that there is a prospect of rolling power cuts, and in the past when we've had protracted power cuts in parts of the town, we have sort of been on standby to open this building up. The worst one I can remember was when it was Calbrook Road, and there were, it was a long power cut. I can't remember how long it was, but we did have some discussion. We opened this place up, do brews and things like that. And I'm not sure if the whole of Barnoldswick is out, what we could sensibly do, because your power would go off. In some parts of the town they'd lose water.
Who's on board?
All Manchester Road, Colne Road. Yeah, there's a pumping station
at the bottom.
at bottom.
Yeah.
Now, I seem to think that they perhaps have a backup generator, but I know it's failed on occasion, and so they lost the water. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I don't know what the possibilities are really in terms of, you know,
Do you think
we don't have a
it's a
generator.
realistic thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not just scaremongering.
The,
I'm
the
just
power
ignoring
companies are
things like
saying
that.
themselves there's going to be shortages.
Yeah.
It's just the government pulling wool over their eyes, saying,
Yeah, National Grid have been planning, and okay, you know, you sort of plan for the worst and hope for the best. But I think the you know, the government have just wanted to sweep it under the carpet.
I mean, it's a simple equation that this is the historical demand, this is the amount of supply forecast. One's bigger than the other. You can't get around that. No matter how much.
Because all the batteries downstairs, you'll be fine, can't you?
Yeah.
She's fine, she'll just jump in the car and go to which.
Anyway,
He'll have power.
I'm sorry,
Not generous.
I'm asking the question, but I don't have an answer. Chris?
Is there any facility in town with space that has emergency power
Backup? No.
generators, anything like
Rolls
that?
Royce, yeah.
Rolls
Just
Royce.
sell it now, we have a generator. We'll
Will it fit it back up the car?
put
All got beds.
yeah, we'll put you all in warehouse. Just pull a few bits
Well,
over.
warehouse isn't warm.
They still do
It
this.
will be there's enough people in there.
When it's
Right.
So around the end to all.
We might be talking about this in favour stuff. Yeah.
thought I have stuff to do.
Okay, well, I have not suggested that the town council, you know, sort of hires a generator, puts it in car parks.
So we could buy a generator and put it in.
There's some
Yeah.
generators.
No, we'll just buy some bikes and we'll just get everyone to take it in turn and build the bikes and power the building.
Mm.
And they'll say one
And they'll say one at the same time. Thank you very much. I rest my case.
So kids
I'll-
have a gym.
Yeah, I'll have a Nobel Prize, thank you very much.
Very good. Okay, and if anybody's got any ideas about what we do in the event of power cuts, answer on the postcard, and we'll look at them in November as well. Yeah?
It could be like a central point, can't they?
Are there any other projects? No? Tom, could I just ask if you can ask if there's any questions?
Not coming up with comments on there.
No.
Questions on the video, however. For
No.
warm and safe places in winter, could it be coordinated with other local orgs who may be offering / planning similar, such as the library, courts,
Yeah,
Laws and Fish Cafe, and other church community groups?
I think that was the proposition really, wasn't it? So thank you very much to whoever suggested that.
Tony Whitney-Hanson.
Good. Right. If there's no further questions, can I thank everybody for their attendance, thank anybody that's been watching this on the live stream, wish everybody a safe journey home, and declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.